Alright, oh my god, he hit the
He
hit the nasty shit. He hit the nasty.
Yeah.
Ew.
And even after that dizzy with the follow-up combo.
Très bon dragon là qui est trouvé de la part de Silent Scope. Il a tenté la Crystal Rod bien esquivé et en plus derrière la chope en punition.
Dommage qu'il se prenne la glissade là. Allez, la garde, voilà.
Là,
je t'en supplie, la garde.
Mais le décalage shop, les devants derrière, le décalage shop, heureusement qu'il a déchopé. Voilà, le dragon encore qui a anticipé, la super qui va gratter, magnifique. Très beau travail. Hein.
In a match that's like one of her tougher matchups as well. That's it! Low jab super. Or whatever it was. I know Silent Scope. Come on, y'all. GG's! Silent Scope takes it!
Hey guys, this is Silent Scope. As some of you may or may not know, not only am I a competitive Capcom vs SNK2 player, but I am also a competitive Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo player. Specifically, I am a competitive Cammy player. Retro fighting games have been able to stay alive due to some amazing creators still hosting events. With that, we are seeing many new players to these classic games, and it has come to my attention that there's not a lot of information when it comes to Cammy tech and tactics in Super Turbo. With that, this will be my guide to Cammy in Super Turbo. This will be a two-part series. This first video will be a beginner's intro to the character, going over buttons, specials, etc. The second part will be a more advanced tactics video, as that will go into tactics for specific character matchups. Quick disclaimer, this is based on my experience with the character and should not be set in stone. So when I say I don't use something or I don't use a specific version of attack, that doesn't mean you shouldn't experiment to try to find options for those abilities. Also, I will be going over multiple options that opponents will have against you, especially in the second video, meaning that for people who don't play Cammy, this can also be helpful to you as well. With that being said, let's get started. Basic rundown for the character. I consider Cammy to be a momentum/pressure character. I really don't consider her a rushdown character. The only character I feel fits that description in Super Turbo is Fei Long, where most of Fei's options keeps him in close range or puts him in close range where he wants to be. Cammy, on the other end, I feel pressures at a little bit further range, and then that can flip the momentum in her favor, and this kind of play style may become more apparent a little bit later. Some quick pros and cons. First off is she has a very fast walk speed, which is good to allow her to keep the pressure on opponents. She has some very strong normals, one of which is considered to be one of the strongest normals in the game. Hooligan throw is probably the best it's ever been, able to catch even crouching opponents. She also has one of the highest damage outputs in the game, being able to essentially kill a character in 2-3 hit combos under the right circumstances. That being said, quickly going into cons is that even though she has that high damage, it is very hard for her to cash out on that damage. The reason for this is being that she has a hard time dealing with projectiles and she's easily spaced out. This is due to the fact that she has no projectile of her own and she has one of the floatier jumps in the game. Her quote-unquote cross-up is one of the more strangest tools that she has, as some characters it is very hard for her to cross up, or some characters she can't make ambiguous, where they only need to block in one direction. On the flip side of that, despite how she looks, when knocked down, it is very easy for her, for at least a lot of the cast, for them to cross her up, as well as make that cross up very ambiguous, which can lead to really easy touch of death combos on her. She also can be very hard execution-wise, especially when it comes to her signature hooligan roll and other aspects which we'll get into in a little bit. With all these things in mind, Cammy is considered one of, if not the worst character in Super Turbo, so temper your expectations if you do decide to try and pick up this character. Going into normals and specials, starting off with her light punch. Standing light punch is most commonly, at least for me, used as kind of a stop motion, mostly to use for proximity guard, meaning that you throw it out so that way they stop walking away from you. That way you can use her fast walk speed to walk forward. Can be used in other matchups as like a stop button against Honda. Can be used in combos in some instances up close, but that's kind of character dependent. Crouch light punch, mostly used for ticks into throws, and again also can be used in combos, but requires a little bit higher execution to use if you are going to use it that way. Jump light punch is a pretty decent jump in as it's active throughout the entire frame, and can be also a kind of decent stop sign in the air in some instances. Medium punch. This is a strange button, at least when it comes to standing. Far stand medium punch I use as a preemptive button, similar to how I use stand jab against Honda, and you might use this like to beat out startups of fireballs and other attacks. The reason why is that when she gets into a range where far stand medium punch would hit normally, it most often switches to close stand medium punch, which whiffs, which is strange, but that's how it's used. Close stand medium punch though can be used for combos if it does hit. It can be canceled into any of her specials. It also can be used as a good anti-air. If you are able to use it as an anti-air, it actually will reset your opponent in the air, and depending on the character, can allow you for a left-right mix-up. Crouching medium punch is my go-to button for combos. It's also a really strong normal just in general. Jump medium punch will be one of your go-to jump in normals. It's a very good jump air normal. It's very much a big stop sign for stopping air movement. Heavy punch. Close heavy punch, when up close, can be canceled into any of her specials, and so it's a go-to for max damage when you're going for combos. Far heavy punch at max range can be used to space out her drill / spiral arrow, which we'll get into in a little bit. Crouch medium punch can be a decent anti-air if you are quick with it and if they're at the right distance from you. Jump heavy punch is your go-to button for max damage combos, especially if you dizzy an opponent. Light kick. Stand light kick I find to be one of the least used normals, at least for me. Can be used similar to light punch as a kind of stop motion button. There are some instances where I'll use it against certain matchups, which we'll get into later. Crouch light kick I mostly use as a tick button. It can be used as a combo tool if you're able to render cancel. Go look that up if you don't know what that is. Jump light kick can be a similar stop sign to jump light punch in some instances. This is technically her quote-unquote cross-up button, but as stated before, it's kind of a weird and bad one at that. Medium kick. This is the button you'll be pressing most often as Cammy. If someone complains to you when you're playing that you're only pressing this button, it means you're not pressing it enough. Keep pressing it more. They need to be much more angry that you're pressing this button. Close stand medium kick you only get after doing that left-right mix-up after a reset in the air that I mentioned before. But it only works on certain characters, which we'll get into when I get in the next video. Far medium kick is a very strong poke tool. It reaches far range. It's good for a preemptive stop against Shotos for throwing fireballs and things like that. Crouch medium kick is the button that I was referring to when I said it's one of the best normals in the game. This button is what you'll be pressing most often in neutral. The reason being it's that its hitbox and hurtbox are really good. Its hitbox reaches all the way to the end of her foot, and her hurtbox is all the way back to her knee. This means on wake up at max range, characters with a reversal typically can't hit her, and so allows for safe pressure options. Also, when this is used at max range, it can be used to space out spiral arrow to be safe. Crouching medium kick can also be used as a combo tool and replacing crouching medium punch. Jump medium kick actually is a decent air-to-air as it hits above her, which can be useful against characters like Claw or Chun-Li who can actually jump above her. Heavy kick. Heavy kick you don't see too often as a poke tool, as it is quite slow and will lose often enough to other strong buttons. But there are certain instances against certain characters where it is useful, which we'll get into in a later video. Close heavy kick I don't actually have a good use for. The only time I will ever get close heavy kick is by accident when I go for a throw attempt and fail to do so. Crouch heavy kick is her sweep and is actually linkable from crouch medium punch. So if you want to go for a safe combo tool instead of going for unsafe drill, you can go for crouch medium punch or crouch HK. Jump heavy kick can be a good air-to-air. It hits more horizontal and is also her farthest reaching jump normal, which can throw off people who are trying to sweep you out of the air. And also jump HK is also interchangeable with jump HP when you want to go for jump in combos. In terms of throws can be done with any of her medium or heavy normals. So this is medium punch, medium kick, or heavy kick. So when going for throw breaks, it's easy just to piano all 4 buttons. She also has 2 air throws as well, which can be useful as kind of an option select in the air by going for a jumping medium punch, which you're hoping to hit, or you can possibly throw them. When it comes to actual executing throws on opponents, I typically find myself going for kick throw more often than punch, because there is a unique situation in the corner where after a punch throw, because of how the character bounces off the wall, they will actually react faster than you. Specials. Drill / Spiral Arrow. This is her go-to for combo enders. It is very unsafe at many ranges, so having hit confirms is very important. But as said before, with certain normals, it can be spaced out to be safe against most of the cast. Cannon Spike / Thrust Kick. I'll be referring to this as just DP from now on. This is her best reversal / wake up option. All versions have the same recovery, so there's no reason not to piano all 3 kicks when going for a wake up DP. It technically has the same startup invul as Ryu's DP, but doesn't have the same lower body invincibility that comes up later for Ryu, which is the reason why she can't as easily go through fireballs like Ryu can in the neutral. The only time she can really go through fireballs if someone does a meaty and then you do a reversal DP on wake up. It is a very strong anti-air tool if you can react in time. The heavy kick version also goes almost full screen. It's good for catching characters like Claw going off the wall. Spin Knuckle, and if you're coming from newer games, it's still as weird as it is ever. The only major tool I found is the jab version, which is the only one that actually has the ability to go through fireballs. But even then, I use it very sparingly because it has a very slow startup and can be punished just on reaction. It can save you from meaty super fireball or fireball chip setups. Medium heavy versions don't actually have any invul at all. They may have some very quick on startup. The only time I actually get those is by accident when I miss the input for a hooligan motion. Speaking of which, her hooligan roll. This is probably one of her best tools when used in the right situations. It is very high execution though. It has 3 different actions. Executing hooligan roll and then not pressing anything will lead to a slide. This can be useful in some instances to catch jump backs. Pressing kick early will have you whiff in the air. And when you're near your opponent, will actually grab the opponent. There are 2 different grabs depending on your height to your opponent. And as said before, this can even grab crouching opponents. Different strengths of hooligan roll make for different arcs. Mostly you'll find yourself using heavy punch as it travels fastest and farthest, but others can be used to navigate projectiles in neutral as well. But as I said before, best if it's used sparingly, which we'll get into in a little bit. Her super. Most common thing you'll be using this for is chip or a reversal. If you have good reactions or solid read, can be used to punish projectiles. Where I find myself punishing projectiles most often is when an opponent does a poor block string, meaning they do far crouch roundhouse to fireball, which is not a true block string, and they're able to super through and that kind of thing. You can combo into it as well, which takes some execution to do. But it is possible on certain characters, and maybe even a viable option in certain instances. With all that being said, let's go into her main game plan. Her main game plan is to walk down opponents with her good walk speed, harassing with crushing medium kick and far HP. Against projectiles, this will involve a lot of walk forward and neutral jumping. It is important at this stage to remain as patient as you can, even as 1,000 projectiles are thrown your way. You can use jab hooligan and other options at far range to try and navigate projectiles to allow you to get a little bit closer each time. When you're really close, you start using stand light punch to hold the opponent in place. That way you can use your fast walk speed, as I said before, and crouch medium kick to then space out perfectly spaced light kick drill. Being able to space out drill in this way is very important for this character. This is technically not a true block string, similar to far crouch roundhouse to fireball from Ryu, but because of the delay in hit, can throw off the timing for the opponent, and if it does hit, can lead to a knockdown. If the drill is blocked, depending on the opponent and character, can lead to a kind of rock, paper, scissors kind of situation. For instance, against a character like Ryu, many might go for an immediate fireball to try and pressure you. If you space it well, crouch sweep will actually whiff in front of you. But if they do go for this fireball, you can immediately do a light punch spin knuckle to actually go through. It won't exactly punish, but it will keep you close to the opponent and keeping her momentum. Or if you have a solid read, if they're constantly trying to press a button after you and you have super, you can even go for an immediate super afterwards. Super at max range can be safe on block in certain instances, so maybe it might be a good gamble for you to try to beat out normals that you know might be coming. If you do get a knockdown with the drill, you can then go for safe jumps. Safe jumps are very important for this character. As I said, you want to try and maintain momentum, and all it takes is for one mistimed jump in for you to lose all the momentum you built up walking and blocking and have to start from the very beginning. Some of the high execution happens when you are looking to hit confirm from her jump ins. A safe combo string after a jump in medium punch would be crouch medium punch, crouch medium kick to light kick drill. But drill in this instance will not combo after that crouch medium kick, no matter the situation or the strength of the drill you use. In order for a combo to actually happen, you need to do jump medium punch, crouch medium punch, immediately to drill. But if your execution is poor or your reactions are bad, this drill will be very unsafe and is very punishable. So you need to be very aware whether your jump in hits or is blocked and end your combo accordingly. Some other options that occur during this crouching medium kick to light drill are that opponents maybe try to jump, and usually sometimes that'll happen in between the crouch medium kick and the drill. If they try to jump forward, like from trying to get out of the corner, typically you can actually recover in time to throw them back into the corner. If they jump back or neutral, depending on the character, you typically have a time to block the attack. But if you have time to block, that means you actually have time to DP and then cause a knockdown and go for safe pressure again. I find that in pressuring this way, you keep the opponent's attention focused on the ground. With their attention focused on crouching medium kick and drill is when hooligan throw can catch them off guard. If you get the high grab version, you can then go for her jump and light kick, quote unquote cross up, or other safe jump options. One thing to point out, if your safe jump timings aren't as good as you want them to be, a safe pressure tool is just far crouching medium kick. As I said before, most wake up options at that far range won't hit her even if they do a reversal wake up. Quickly going into her cross up, her best jump in combo from a cross up jump light kick is crouch medium punch, crouch medium kick to drill. This will stun the opponent about like 90% of the time, and if so, most commonly leads to death. As I said, she has very high damage. But this combo does not work on several of the cast, and in some instances, the strength of the drill required for this combo to work depends on whether the opponent is standing or crouching. For those cases, you will actually need to have your reaction and your execution on point. But for me, what I have done is I programmed myself to see jump light kick and combo immediately to stand heavy punch to drill, which works on everybody. It requires a very much higher execution to see the jump and light punch and immediately go for heavy punch to drill. When it comes to anti-airs, if you have the reactions, reacting with her DP is probably her best option, as it gives you a knockdown and again being able to apply pressure the way you want. But another option to go for is her standing medium punch. As stated before, if you react quickly enough and get a clean hit, this leads to a reset situation where you can walk under your opponent and go for a meaty standing medium kick. If this lands, it can lead to a full combo, which typically dizzy. You can even go for her major cross-up combo as I mentioned before. But as stated, this standing medium kick only works on certain characters because it will miss specific characters or specific characters when they are crouching. I actually have a video of this on my channel that you can take a look at to see the weirdness that is this move. If you're finding an opponent where this move is not viable, you can walk a little bit further and ensure that your character turns around and then go for a meaty crouching medium punch. Now this is kind of not as ambiguous as the standing medium kick, but can throw off your opponent. If you want to make this reset a mix-up, after you start walking forward, you can stop a little bit early and then go for a meaty crouching medium punch on the same side as your opponent. I usually go for a crouch sweep after that. Another thing to point out in terms of being able to reset your opponent, this actually can happen not just from her standing medium punch, but also if you air to air your opponent when they're just outside of the corner. What happens is when you air to air them in this way, they will hit the corner and will basically bounce off and keep them airborne longer, which will allow you to actually walk under them in the actual corner and lead to the close standing medium kick as before. If you are a beginner to Cammy, some things to focus on are the ability to space her light kick drill to be safe with either crouch medium kick or far heavy punch. As I have said, I feel this is a major aspect of her gameplay. Practice getting hooligan in neutral as consistently as possible. Know that I personally still miss this input, so don't be too hard on yourself if you find that you're having a hard time executing this move. Definitely learn her safe jump timings. If you find yourself having trouble with safe jump timings, you can always revert back to far crouching medium kick for an almost always safe option. When it comes to fighting projectile characters, quell the urge to jump forward as much as possible. Only jump forward when you are sure that this will not lead to a punish against you, or will actually lead to punishing the opponent. I know it can be quite annoying to have to just walk forward and block or neutral jump projectiles for most of a match, but trust me when I say jumping forward in frustration will always lead to your loss. It is at this point I would probably start having to go into caveats for specific characters, so I believe this will be a good place to end this beginning intro video to Cammy and Super Turbo. Look forward to the second part of the series where I break down individual matchups against specific characters. If you are looking for more players to get inspiration for this character, here are some other Cammy players to look at. From the US, you can look at old James Chen videos, or you can look at a relatively newer player like Jacques Tioff. In Europe, you have Max from France, who in my opinion is probably the best Cammy player in the world at the moment. You also have a player like Vile Island from the UK, who has some very cool, unique tech videos on his channel, including some for Cammy. In Japan, you have Nakamura or Takashi, probably the best Cammy ever, but is not consistently playing anymore. You also have Tasaka, probably the strongest Cammy in the Osaka and Nagoya region. The strongest, newest Cammy player, I would say, is Haku, aka 88, if you see him on videos, which you can find him playing a lot at the weekly East vs West games at GameSpot Versus. Thank you all so much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe, and let me know what your thoughts are on Cammy and Super Turbo in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.